So I recently came across an article about the top 10 best-selling smartphones for the first half of 2023. And to no one's surprise, it is completely dominated by Apple, with a sprinkle of Samsung. As someone who typically prefers an Android phone for day-to-day use, every year I try my best to give the iPhone a fair shot just to see what Apple's got cooking up. So here we are. This is the brand new iPhone 15 Pro, and while most of the upgrades are far from groundbreaking, there is one new feature that I think is a real winner. So the switch from stainless steel to titanium makes the phone lighter. You definitely can feel it, but let's be real, it's not a drastic difference. We're talking 19 grams here. Sure, the brush finish helps with fingerprints, and the new curvature on the sides makes it a little more comfortable to hold, but none of that truly matters to me because, like most people, this goes right into a case on day one. Now, going from the proprietary Lightning port to USB-C is 100% the right move. It supports faster data transfer and makes the phone more compatible with accessories. I wouldn't even consider this a new feature though, as I think they should have made that switch a long time ago. Because 95% of my gear is USB-C, the Lightning port has always been one of my pain points when it comes to iPhones. So yeah, one cable for everything is truly amazing. While the new A17 Pro chipset in this phone is definitely faster in benchmarks, as you'd expect, it's not really something I even noticed coming from any iPhone from the past couple of years. During day-to-day usage, it performs exactly like my iPhone 14 Pro. The Pro models do come with a bump in RAM, up to 8 gigabytes, which is important because Apple wants to bring AAA gaming to their phones. Unfortunately, none of the titles that Apple showcased are officially available, and heads up, the asking price for these games are also quite high. But I guess it's a little easier to swallow if you have a compatible MacBook or iPad and can play on those devices too. I don't know, there's a lot of potential, but for right now, we'll have to just wait to see what the experience is like. I'm also not seeing any noticeable improvements to the battery life over last year's model. The results have been very similar across the board for my typical battery drain test. It'll easily last a day unless you're gaming or using the camera a lot, in which case, expect to top up some time during the day. As you can tell, I've been very lukewarm about the majority of the upgrades on this phone. However, there is one brand new feature that I am a big fan of, and it's the action button, which replaces the ring/silent switch. One of the many reasons why I like Galaxy phones is the level of freedom that they provide. The action button offers a lot more freedom than I'm used to from Apple, and I gotta say, I like this version of Apple. What's crazy is that Samsung actually has something similar called the Bixby button, except they did a terrible job marketing it and eventually removed it from their phones. I'm willing to bet that we'll likely see Samsung bring it back now. The settings menu for the action button is so freaking excessive, but honestly, I kind of love it. Everything from the animations, the haptics, the attention to detail, it's all very polished and well done. It's very Apple-like in the best way possible. Now, I can see a lot of people going with the camera option. That's what I started off with. I love that they let you select which mode it opens up in, and being able to use the action button as a physical shutter feels so natural when shooting in landscape. But hold on, it gets better. Thanks to Apple's Shortcuts app, you're not just limited to the 5 or 6 default actions. For example, you can set it to quickly launch music recognition, to start a custom timer, or maybe you want to launch Google Assistant because Siri just ain't cutting it. You can also set it to open a custom shortcuts folder with a list of your favorite shortcuts to choose from. If nothing else, I think the action button is going to introduce a lot of people to the Shortcuts app, and at the same time, make it much more popular. To my disappointment, the iPhone 15 Pro didn't get the new 5x telephoto lens like the Pro Max model. This means it essentially shares the same camera setup as last year's iPhone 14 Pro and doesn't get the improved zoom capabilities. It's still one of the best phones for photography, right up there with flagships from Samsung and Google. The fact that it now shoots 24 megapixel images by default definitely helps with detail, and the improvements to HDR are 100% noticeable. Highlights like bright skies don't get blown out anymore. Coming from a Samsung phone, I truly appreciate the zero shutter lag that you get when taking pictures. Before I had a kid, it wasn't such a big deal, but now that I have an energetic 1-year-old daughter, blurry photos absolutely drive me crazy. Low light pictures are solid too. For this night mode shot of my daughter sleeping, there was only a tiny bit of light coming from the hallway. This one was in a pitch black room, and the fact that I was even able to capture something semi-usable makes me happy. Another sample, I was playing catch with my husband over the weekend. He took this portrait shot of me, and I was blown away by the fact that it was able to keep the moving ball in focus. The front-facing camera on iPhones have never been my favorite, but you know what? I've actually been really liking how the selfies are turning out on the 15 Pro. They definitely tweaked the processing, and yeah, these look good to me. Video recording on iPhones has always been best in class, and what else is there to say? If you care about videography, the iPhone continues to be the phone to beat. Supporting log encoded video is great for you pros out there, but honestly, it's not something I'm going to be using very often, especially since it requires external storage. Overall, I must say the camera experience has been really good despite no real hardware changes. As an Android girl, now that USB-C and a quicker way to trigger Google Assistant are available on iPhone, my list of true complaints is as small as it's ever been. Dynamic Island gets a lot of flack because it's a much larger cutout compared to the single hole punch that Android phones have sort of settled in on. Look, Apple ain't dropping Face ID, so those larger cutouts aren't going anywhere. They've found a unique way to make it a part of the phone's identity, and I'm all for it. It makes the phones stand out. You see this? You know it's a modern day iPhone. Dynamic Island might not currently be as functional as I like, but hey, if I can live with literally a crease on my foldable display, this is nothing. There's no denying that the gesture-based navigation on iPhones is silky smooth, but coming from an Android phone, I still find myself missing the universal back gesture. The swipe from the left sort of does the same thing and is perfectly fine, but it's kind of awkward to do, and it's also not completely universal. When viewing a picture, for example, trying to swipe from the left won't work. It's actually a swipe down to go back instead. But hey, once you get used to the gestures, it's really a non-issue. The app library still boggles my mind. It always feels like a guessing game when I'm trying to look for an app. Forcing pre-made categories instead of allowing us to create our own folders feels so strange. I'd even prefer this list view that shows up when you swipe down to be the default layout. But yeah, it pretty much forced me to use Spotlight Search 95% of the time now, which might actually be a blessing because I found it to be way more efficient. It feels like Apple intentionally makes notifications less in your face by tucking them behind a swipe, which I kind of appreciate considering how intrusive notifications can get. But here's the thing. It's so much easier to miss or just forget you have notifications on iOS. I can live with it, but it's just not as efficient in my opinion. What's nice on Android phones is having the little notification icons pop up on the status bar. It serves as a reminder that I have missed notifications. Now, Samsung gets a bad rep for having a lot of bloatware, and it's kind of justified, especially when it comes to hidden system apps that come pre-installed and can only be disabled rather than deleted. Like, what gives, right? If I'm not using it, give me the option to remove it. iPhones actually have quite a few pre-installed apps that I don't use either, but the difference is that you can actually delete a lot of them, even the ones you don't think would be possible to remove. Visually, I think iOS is a very good looking operating system, and over the years, they've added a lot of functionality and customization that I've always felt iPhones were missing. You've got an always on display now. Widgets are thriving on iOS, and you can even interact with them now. Lock screen customization is a lot of fun and a great way to personalize your phone. The way album art can span across the entire lock screen is a nice visual touch that I appreciate every time I listen to music. The new customizable contact poster is like the modern day business card, and another great way to personalize your iPhone experience. My favorite feature in iOS 17 has to be live voicemail. It's not as interactive as Google's screen calling feature, but I found it to be surprisingly helpful. The iPhone 15 Pro isn't gonna blow you away. As much as I like the action button, it's not gonna drastically change the overall experience, and the verdict is still out on if Apple can actually pull off the whole AAA gaming thing. Although I haven't personally experienced it, there is some controversy about the phone's overheating, so if you're concerned about that, maybe it's best to see how it all pans out before buying. In general though, if you got a 2 or 3-year-old model, I don't think it's worth the upgrade. I'd say maybe get a battery replacement instead. Now, if you're coming from a 4 or 5-year-old model, then yeah, it might make a little more sense. If you're craving for something exciting or want to try something new, I think there are some very interesting options out there in Android land. But if you're deep in the Apple ecosystem or heavily rely on iMessage or FaceTime, I can't blame you for sticking to what you know. iOS has come a long way, and I love the more customizable and personalized direction that Apple is heading in with their software. As for me, I still feel slightly more at home with Android, but truthfully, I'd be perfectly fine with an iPhone too. As usual, thank you so much for watching, and till the next one, I'm out of here. Bye!